This is CJ with the GOAT Sports Talk. Just wanted to kind of bring up some more information concerning the Chris Paul situation and what influenced him pretty much to go to the Houston Rockets. This is from the Bleacher Report. It says here that Chris Paul's Spurs interest reportedly was influenced by LaMarcus Aldridge's future. Pretty much LaMarcus Aldridge was rumored to be potentially traded from the San Antonio Spurs, and that may have influenced, Chris Paul to say he wanted to trade to Houston. No, that's kind of odd to me because, I don't understand how that would make any much sense. Maybe, I think to a certain degree, everybody knows that Houston as a city is more appealing than San Antonio, to ball players. So maybe that could have influenced it. And, I guess when you're thinking about the fact with San Antonio, if they already got two all-star caliber players in Kawhi Leonard and LaMarcus Aldridge, if Chris Paul goes there with the squad that they have as far as the complementary pieces, and you got a Hall of Fame coach, I mean, definitely you would think you would have a great chance of being able to overtake or even compete against the Golden State Warriors in a 7-game series. So I guess if you're thinking that he might leave, then it might influence you to say, you know what, forget San Antonio, let me go somewhere else. Because part of it is that Chris Paul, it looks like free agents are realizing that Texas is a place where you can get the most bang for your buck from a real estate perspective. You can get an amazing home, like a freaking castle, an estate for like, $5 million plus. I mean, if you come over here, you'll see some amazing homes for a lot cheaper than what you would get in California. And then on top of that, there's no state tax. And then you got a lot of competitive owners. One thing you will say about Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio as far as their owners, they are very competitive and they all want to field, championship teams. So that's why I think, Texas is going to be one of the hotbeds for free agency, moving forward after a lot of the dominoes fall into place with the other major markets that are more appealing to NBA players, especially your LA market, your New York market, which New York has fallen off really just overall, as far as a destination for players that they would want to go to. And then of course you got Miami. So pretty much when you read the article basically states that the Houston Rockets point guard, now Chris Paul, which is kind of weird to say, was interested in going there, but LaMarcus Aldridge not wanting to be there potentially was a problem. Now I'm gonna read here. It says on Thursday, Marcus J. Spears of ESPN's Undefeated reported on Paul's interest level in teaming up with coach Greg Popovich and San Antonio, but said with Aldridge's status with the Spurs up in the air, it made the situation less attractive. Spurs also noted it probably would have been awkward for Paul to take the starting role over longtime point guard, respected foe and friend Tony Parker. That's true. But, I think the thing about it with Tony Parker's situation, that injury was very bad. And I don't believe that he's going to be able to recover at the same level that he once was, because that's just a tough injury to come back at this time in your career where you think you will be able to be a starting point guard, especially in a very competitive position is point guard. And you have to be, capable of being able to handle the day-to-day battle between all these great point guards. And there's a lot of point guards that are probably not going to make an all-star team in their career in this particular time in age, or and they're going to be great point guards. I mean, you got very good point guards that have a lot of talent that are overlooked because of just the plethora of point guards in the league that are very good. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is with the Tony Parker situation. Now, moving on. Now, it says here, Aldridge has a player option for the 2018-2019 season and will turn 32 years old in July. So, I mean, when you look at that, the player option, that would have probably kept, that would have been a good situation for Chris Paul if he had went there knowing that Aldridge had that player option and would have believed that he would still either keep it or extend, so that you have a good team. But if you're San Antonio, even though I think that really the whole situation with LaMarcus Aldridge, to be honest, and I'm going to just talk about it here because I'm not going to create a separate thing for, to discuss just strictly LaMarcus Aldridge. But LaMarcus Aldridge, he just appeared hurt. Now, LaMarcus Aldridge is not like a mobile power forward, like on the level of like a Kevin Garnett in his prime or something. We all know that. He's not on that level of mobility, to keep up with, some of these players like a Kevin Durant where they switch up these lineups at Golden State where they can have Draymond Green at the 5 pretty much, and Kevin Durant at the 4, and then it's a problem for the LaMarcus Aldridge style of play. Remember also that one thing I noticed about San Antonio is that they try and keep a lot of roster flexibility on their team, and that's why they do have traditional big men in like Paul Gasol and LaMarcus Aldridge. As far as LaMarcus Aldridge is a guy who can put he's a throwback. He's a guy that can go back to the basket. He can line up for the 17-footer. That he can basically do the pick and roll a little bit. And then same thing with Paul Gasol. Even though he's older, he's not as mobile as he once was, but he's still a very good post player. And when they do play him good big minutes, if you saw when he was in Chicago, when he he was amazing in Chicago. He was playing like he was when he was in his prime in Los Angeles, because they were playing him a lot of minutes, and he was putting up a double even at an old age. So, and he's not a guy that ever had a history of injury issues as well. All right, now as far as the rest of the article, it says he also struggled at times in the playoffs and scored single-digit points in 2 of the San Antonio's 4 losses and to Golden State in the Western Conference Finals, while having trouble keeping up with quicker playmakers on the defensive side. Now, does that sound familiar? Okay, when it comes to LaMarcus Aldridge, that sounds like Kevin Love. And one thing you cannot do as a player in these big finals game, you can't be continually doing this. And I think the thing with Cleveland, and I understand their situation, it's a similar thing with LaMarcus Aldridge. You see a player, that should be able to put up, at least 15 points, on a bad game, and he's not able to do double digits. That's a problem for your team, especially when you're down your, Tony Parker, and then of course they were down Kawhi the rest of the series. They want to see you assert yourself as that franchise level player like you were when you were in Portland, and he wasn't able to do that. Now I don't think that was an issue for Chris Paul as far as that, but there's only so much you can say as far as what they felt they can do. But I do believe that the reason why Chris Paul also would choose Houston is because I believe that from speaking to probably James Harden and the aggressiveness, knowing about the aggressiveness of the Houston franchise under Daryl Morey as general manager. I'm pretty sure that, and everybody's seen the other rumors about them wanting to get, possibly Carmelo Anthony, still in pursuit of Paul George. I mean, don't be surprised if they try and, get either one of those players, and then also try and probably come at Dwayne Wade if he gets bought out. They're really going to go all in this season to create a team that by the end of the season could be, on a level to hold their ground against the Golden State Warriors in a 7-game series. So, it's going on right now. And Chris Paul, he felt like he chose a place where he could possibly, win a title in the next probably year or two. Los Angeles Clippers just was not going to be the place in his mind based on what he's seen. It was enough at this time. So pretty much, man, I'm not going to read too much of the article, man. I'll just kind of skip down. It says here, Adrian Wojnarowski of The Vertical previously reported Paul had a strong desire to play with James Harden, which spurred the Los Angeles Clippers to trade him. If they didn't, Paul could have opted out of the contract and signed elsewhere in free agency, leaving his prior team without a return package that included Patrick Beverley, Sam Dekker, and Montrezl Harrell. Now, in the last one, if you saw, they didn't have the information about Montrezl Harrell. They actually had money involved and other players on top of these guys as well. So that just shows you just how much the Rockets are willing to give up as far as their young talent. Of course, you got a prime Patrick Beverley, who was a good player, but let's just keep it real. An upgrade at point guard with Chris Paul is better for the Rockets, at least in the next 2 to 3 years. Now, I don't know, Chris Paul's not very durable. He hasn't played many games the last 3 seasons if you look at it. So how is that going to keep up? Will him coming to Houston, will D'Antoni's, lighter, less aggressive practices keep him fresher throughout the season? Will the rotation of the players be good enough to keep his minutes down so that way he's not always on the court, to where he can get rest? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. There's things that players can do to adjust their bodies for the grind, and a lot of times players tend to get smarter as they get older, especially in this day and age where they have access to information to take care of their bodies the right way. So I don't know if Chris Paul is going to switch up anything to where he can at least, be available for at least 75 games. Because the thing about it in the West, I believe that you're going to need to get that home court advantage. You need to be a 1 or 2 seed, and really, if it's possible, be the number 1 seed, because that would be beneficial to have that advantage when going into the Western Conference Finals if you run into them in the second round. As far as to the Golden State Warriors, but the Golden State Warriors has their issues that we've also discussed about, and it looks like they're still kind of figuring out what they're wanting to really do, and it's getting very interesting. So that situation is going to update and progress as these moves are being made. And of course, we know that free agency kicks off officially on July 1st. All right, now going on into the rest of the article, it says, while the consistent Spurs with Kawhi Leonard would have given Paul a chance to play for a winner, Houston does as well. The Rockets finished with the 3rd best record in the league in 2016-17, and Paul will have a chance to play in head coach Mike D'Antoni's space-oriented system. Paul and Harden should have plenty of opportunities to get on in transition and find teammates when opposing defenses collapse. And that's very true, because that would be an exciting thing to play in. And I really believe that Chris Paul admired the way that Steve Nash played. See, a lot of stuff that people don't understand is that when Mike D'Antoni created that offense in Phoenix, and it really opened up the game for Steve Nash, which, Chris Paul has every single last bit of the skills of Steve Nash and then some. He could put up better numbers in that system. Like, Chris Paul should be able to average, especially with the increasing amount of 3-point attempts that's allowed on the Rockets. He should probably average about 20 and 10 this season easy. Like, there should be no reason why he shouldn't be a 20 and 10 assist guy and 2 to 3 steals a game this season, and definitely probably an MVP candidate depending on where they fall as far as where they fall in the Western Conference race at the end of the season. So Chris Paul, if he stays healthy and he's able to play in that offense way, should be. I think the one of the things that the Rockets are going to need to do is fill out that roster with some young guys that are athletic and that can shoot the 3. And there's guys out there. That's the odd thing about it, is that there's guys out there that are athletic, and at least if they're good, at least decent 3-point shooters, I think in a Rocket system, with the amount of attempts that they would get in practice, that they would shoot up because they practice a bunch of threes, and that they would be allowed to attempt during games. I believe that you can get guys that are decent 3-point shooters, and they could become 33 to 35% 3-point shooters, which for the Rockets, that's all they want. From an effective field goal rate percentage, that's the ideal guy. If he's at least a 33 to 35% 3-point shooter at the bare minimum, I think that they could find those guys that can do that for them. And with 2 guys like Harden and Paul that are willing passers, great court vision, willing to pass, they should basically, they should really, if they can get another guy, man, that they might break some records in terms of offense, especially from the 3-point shooting and probably from fast break offense. All kinds of stuff. Assists too, like assists per game for a team might, be up there with some of the best teams in the league, by the end of the year. So, we're talking about a lot of different things that they could do. It's crazy, and I'm going to just read the last part of it. It says, while it remains to be seen whether Houston will have enough to challenge the Warriors, especially since it could still add players this offseason, Paul will have a chance to play with the winner. And that's true. He'll have a chance to play with a contender, but I wouldn't say a winner. I think if somehow, some way the Warriors are able to bring back, Kevin Durant along with re-signing Stephen Curry, even if they lose Iguodala, I think that their best bet is to let Iguodala go and basically keep Sean Livingston, and then, get other guys that want to play for them for the cheap, just like they got with David West. Go get some guys, and they develop their young players, so it's not like they're not a team that's not able to develop some level of depth over the course of a season with some of their younger players that they may have invite to the summer league. So all that stuff, it is what it is. So I think that the Rockets as constructed, if they're able to get like a Carmelo Anthony, or they're able to get a Paul George, which Paul George will be better because defensively he is better than Carmelo. He is younger. But if they're able to somehow get like even Carmelo for this year, and they're able to fill in the roster with some veteran players that can contribute to the team, I think that team by the end of the season, and the way that they play on the Rockets, their style of play, I believe that could cause a lot of problems for Golden State, because then they would be on their heels defensively a lot more than they were even against a team like the Cleveland Cavaliers, who really, they only had two guys that were true offensive threats, whereas they would have three, and you get 2 versus 3 that you have to worry about. It just makes it harder for a team to keep up with, especially guys that can create shots on their own and for others. So pretty much, that's it with this one. Just going to wrap it up with this one concerning Chris Paul and the reason why he possibly did not want to go to the San Antonio Spurs. And it kind of sounds somewhat valid as well. So